Click. And we're live. It is Wednesday, July 13th, 2022, 5 o'clock p.m. We are on time, broadcasting live from the Bamboo Studio in the nippliest of dog shirts. We also have an extra dog here today. This is Lola the dog, who sends her greetings. And Lola conveys this ever-present sense of really not wanting to have much to do with you.
Lola is giving you the cold shoulder.
She is. But she is very content to sit on a chair and be on in lieu of fun. Kate will be joining us at whatever point she decides to. And we have David Priess here today. And David Priess is here to talk about the very important subject of presidential bobblehead dolls. There have been 656 episodes of In Lieu of Fun. Not a single one has tackled the presidential bobblehead doll issue. And, you know, I feel bad about that. I sort of think we've fallen down on the job. But David informs me that there is actually breaking presidential bobblehead doll news. And so I'm, maybe we were right to hold off this long. We are not allowed to have fun anymore. We are allowed to have a show on presidential bobblehead dolls. So David, I want to start with the question, because before somebody scoops us on it, What is the presidential bobblehead doll news? And remember, people, you heard it here first on In Lieu of Fun. You can't get this kind of news on CNN, on MSNBC, on Fox News.
There might be a reason for that.
Well,
but thank you. This is, I don't know what the right metaphor is. This is the thinnest of reeds, the weakest of hooks, the most difficult of lifts, because it was literally one offhand comment about a bobblehead that somehow led to this being a feature. But I'll
we're going to commit to the bit here. I mean, we're going to do a show on it.
How much I'm committed to this bit, because I prepared for this as soon as you threw bobbleheads out there on the Twitter. So first of all, you can't see it behind me because the setup here doesn't show my horizontal view like a TV hit, but my featured over-the-shoulder character today is the first bobblehead I will show, who is the only bobblehead I have who is not a president. And this is A.Ham, Alexander Hamilton himself, who has been behind me for 2 days now, because 2 days ago was the 218th anniversary of the unfortunate duel with the despicable Aaron Burr. So Alexander Hamilton has been shaking his head, no, that shouldn't have happened, ever since Monday. So that's where the bobblehead thing started. But we're going to go chronologically, because don't worry, I don't have 46 presidential bobbleheads, not even close.
Wait, you don't?
Oh God, no.
I thought you had them all.
No, I am not the type of person to decide on a whim to spend somewhere between $1,200 and $2,000 to get all of them at once, because some of them actually are not as easy as you'd think to acquire at a reasonable price.
But wait a second, I have a serious question for you, David, because I think we can solve this problem. Is there G-code for presidential bobbleheads? Because if there is, I can 3D print you all the presidential bobbleheads you do not have. All you'd have to add is the spring and a little bit of weight.
I doubt, but it's possible, because there's a lot of stuff out there.
There's G-code for everything, man. I know there's a Millard Fillmore.
You can build a bobblehead on a 3D printer.
Yeah, a William Howard Taft bobblehead.
I'm not sure how the material would work, but it's quite possible. But when
I can't
one talks
paint
of presidential bobbleheads, one must start with GW, right? He's the first, he's the best, he nods. I only learned recently, look at his remarkable wig. See that? Not a wig. George Washington did not wear a wig. It actually was his hair. He just powdered it and wore it in the style of the times. So the bobblehead shows his actual hair. How about that?
Well,
So that's
but can
George.
I? But wait.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
false teeth were really false teeth, right? He didn't. George
False teeth,
Washington didn't have any teeth.
false teeth, but not the wooden teeth that some of us learned when we were in school. Apparently, they were other materials. I skipped other presidents. The next president chronologically is James K. Polk, who is very special to me because when I was writing my first book, my son was very young, and we had, one of those placemats for eating that had the presidents on it. And for some reason, he just became obsessed with James K. Polk. He said that before he said the names of all the members of our family. And so I had to find a way when writing about the President's Daily Brief, which has only existed in the last 60 years, to work in the name James K. Polk into that book. So I did. But of course, we have to have a bobblehead for him as well. Okay, next. You cannot have a bobblehead collection of presidents without Honest Abe.
I think that's right.
Yeah, he's probably my favorite, not only because I grew up in Central Illinois and it's in my blood, but because he's different than the rest. I mean, his look is different than the other bobbleheads, and his eyes. Look at those eyes. I mean,
Yeah, he's got a little
connecting
bit
the
of. I mean, this is heretical to say about Honest Abe, but the bobblehead has a little bit of an Osama bin Laden vibe to it.
Ooh.
He's looking at you in this like kind of I'm going to blow up the World Trade Center kind of way.
I don't see that. Is that the beard? Is that the eyes?
Well, hang on. Let's ask the audience.
I am not seeing bin Laden.
Hold it up. Fair look for everyone. Do you see what Ben means
Ben is a better
he
person than this,
says
and
that
he knows it.
Abe Lincoln
And Abe says no.
bobblehead
Abe says no.
has
not
an
a terrorist.
Osama
Not a terrorist.
bin Laden vibe.
I mean, messing with the whole habeas corpus thing does not equate to killing thousands of people in a terrorist
Oh,
act.
no,
So
I didn't say he was. I just said the bobblehead. All right, do you agree this is a fair? Wow, I'm getting clobbered
Ben and I
in
have
this vote.
disagreed about many things behind the scenes regarding lawfare and other things before. I've never felt this strong of a disagreement before.
Look at the vote, man. More than
hurt.
20% see what I'm talking about here.
Yeah, more than 40% vote for Trump. So okay.
Well, I didn't. Yeah, go on, dude.
Okay.
I'm content with if 20% of the Greek chorus is down with what I'm saying. I feel in good company.
We have my newest addition, which is a gift from my son, which is Ulysses Grant.
Ooh, it's a Ulysses Grant.
Yeah, he was born Hiram Ulysses Grant, and only when he went to West Point did he start being Ulysses, because Hiram was just, Hiram. Come on,
it's too geeky.
Yeah, there's Ulysses. I like the Grant. We have to go forward quite a ways then. This guy is probably, in some ways, the best bobblehead because he's, represents his character. He's different. Hi, Teddy. Teddy's got some attitude, right? He's
I like that one.
Yeah, he's clearly showing.
I've never seen that one before.
He's a good one. Several presidents have different bobbleheads. Not all of them do. It's hard to find multiple Millard Fillmores or William Henry Harrisons. But you can find multiple Teddys. Another one that I think there's multiples of, but I love this one, is FDR
nice.
because he's seated, which is appropriate, and he has Fala, his lovely terrier, down at his feet. And as far as I know,
did we skip over Woodrow Wilson here?
I don't have a Woodrow Wilson bobblehead. He's one of those presidents that the more I learn, the more I dislike, and I have no rush to put him on my shelf. So Wilson being gone is not quite, it's not accidental. So FDR had a dog with his bobblehead. The only other presidential bobblehead I know of that has a dog is Lyndon Johnson, who had several dogs. He named them things like him and her, because that's Lyndon Johnson for you.
Yeah.
But this one kind of echoes the Teddy by having a hat. He's the only other one with a hat, and echoes his idol FDR by having the dog. Then we go to Jerry. We got Gerald Ford. You can tell because he's smoking that pipe there.
Also, that it's the blandest of the bobbleheads.
Maybe you have to see what they did with Bush.
All
They
right.
made him pretty bland too. But yeah, Ford is there. He's smoking the pipe, but he didn't last long, so we'll move on. I don't have a Jimmy Carter yet, but I do have Ronald Reagan with the shiny hair. I mean, look at that.
Yeah, it's got like Elvis.
That's like a James Webb Space Telescope image with the detail on that hair. Look at that. So Ron's happy. He's a happy guy. Let's move to his successor. This is the bobblehead news of the day, and it connects with where you started. So, in some personal ways, it's been a ridiculously shitty year, and so we decided to celebrate life to get over death by getting a new rescue dog, and that's Ollie. And Ollie is ridiculously large. We've always had small dogs, and Ollie is about 50 pounds and growing rapidly. We discovered he's about 2 months younger than we thought. So his growth curve will continue, and his bear-like claws suggest he will be closer to 100 pounds than 70 or 80. So Ollie was playing in our house, and he ran into the library and could not quite stop himself and hit the bookshelf. And a couple of things on the bookshelf fell over, one of which was this guy. I think you see the problem. And no, this is not JFK. This is not an inappropriate joke.
Is that Bill Clinton?
No, this is Bush
oh, it was
41.
George W.
Bush
Yeah.
41 had an accident, and we're going to have to try the Gorilla Glue, but right at that point of the neck with the spring and the weight, I'm not sure any adhesive known to man is going to correct this, and we may just have to splurge and get another George H.W. Bush bobblehead.
So
we do have Bill Clinton. He's the first modern president to have a colored shirt. See that? That bright blue?
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's
Bob
got a
Mueller
smile on his
wouldn't
face.
approve of that.
I think he's happy about something going on, but I'm not sure exactly what makes him so happy. We have George W. Bush, who somehow kept his head. He's doing okay. And then we have perhaps, I think, the one with the most attitude, and it's all in the posture. What they did with Barack Obama is they actually set him at an angle, right? So if you see the name, he's straightforward there, but look, he's posing off to the side and then looking back. Like, I got attitude.
He's leaning.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, he's leaning off to the side.
I kind of like his style. I mean, the bobblehead style is better. Now, I have not seen and have no intention to see the Donald Trump bobblehead in this series. I don't know what they've done with that. There are obviously many directions they could go, but they try to stay not political with these. So I have a suspicion it puts on as pleasant a picture as you can of his entire body and face, but that will not be the next one that I will acquire. I'm probably going for, I don't know. I think I'm probably going for a William McKinley next, or maybe a Dwight Eisenhower. We'll see where we go with this. So those are the presidential bobbleheads in the collection right now.
I want to ask you a number of questions about presidential bobbleheads.
Yep.
First, who makes these? Where do you get them?
The ones in my collection, and I have stayed with this, is the company called Royal Bobbles. They don't just make presidential bobbleheads, they make a bunch of celebrities and others as well. But they are the ones who make the entire presidential line when you can find them, because a lot of times they're not currently in stock, and some of the lesser known presidents they haven't made long runs of. Sometimes they've only made like 500 of them. There are other companies that make certain ones, and I think the estates must license out to some of the modern presidents, because I've seen a couple of different styles. There's also I can't remember what they're called, like the Funkos, the small short ones that are plastic instead of ceramic. And those tend to be more cartoonish, the big eyes, almost the anime kind of look. And I just don't appreciate those as much. Jared Cohen, who's a huge presidential history fan and wrote the book Accidental Presidents, which is fantastic. I believe he has all of the presidential bobbleheads, as well as a life-sized stuffed mannequin of Teddy Roosevelt in his office up at Jigsaw.
That would take a lot of space, a life-size Teddy Roosevelt.
Oh, it does, and it's right behind him. It's quite a thing to see. But he would be the expert on some of the differences between presidential bobbleheads of different companies.
All right, next question. To be a presidential bobblehead as opposed to merely a bobblehead,
Hmm.
do you have to get elected by the bobblehead electoral college, or is it enough that the person that you were modeled after was elected by the actual electoral college? Is there some process of accession for bobbleheads to become presidential bobbleheads?
I can see no way in which there's an electoral college of bobbleheads, because how would they vote, right? Because even if I take great care, let's say that Bill Clinton were to become an elector, from the state of New York, um, is he going? If let's say he votes yes for a candidate, right? He's going to vote yes. Do you cast your electoral vote for Joe Biden? How do you read that? Is that a yes or a no? The bobbleheads are not precise enough to allow a. I mean, that would
Yeah,
be
that's
challenged.
a very good point.
I think
All
that
right,
would be easily
secondly,
challenged.
when you break or Ollie breaks a presidential bobblehead, do we call that impeachment and removal,
Ooh,
or or is it assassination? Does the
wow.
bobblehead Secret Service get upset? What's
Yeah.
the what's
Yeah.
the technical terminology for that?
I'll tell you, when I do a graduate class at George Mason University's Public Policy School on intelligence and the presidency. And last semester, for each class session, when I talk about various presidents, one of these guys will be behind me, and the women and men in the class, would be chatting, trying to figure out who's going to be there, because usually it would be clear who I'm going to be talking about, but sometimes they were suspecting that I'd throw them a curve, like put a Dick Cheney instead of a George W. Bush. During the Kennedy week, they were disturbed that I did not have a Kennedy bobblehead, but they made the comment that I alluded to earlier, which is they actually did not want to see a Kennedy bobblehead, because seeing his head kind of lazily rolling to the side
Yeah, I mean, I've
would,
resisted
oh,
the Mike Pence bobblehead jokes for
uh,
exactly this reason, right? I
yeah,
mean, you
it's
know,
it's too soon for
you just
Kennedy.
don't want to go there.
Some would say it's too soon for Lincoln, but at least I'm not calling him a terrorist. So there's that.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
All right. Next question. Ceramics. This suggests that the bobbleheads. I had thought of these bobbleheads as little plastic things, but
No.
these are like
Yeah.
little. They're nice.
Right. Yeah.
What does a presidential bobblehead cost?
If you want to check, I checked recently for Millard Fillmore, because that's my life, and Millard Fillmore was running at $39.99 plus shipping. I
Now,
think
do more illustrious presidents cost more, or is the cost of Millard Fillmore and the cost of Thomas Jefferson roughly equivalent?
I think it's the opposite, Ben. I think I have a just beyond vague recollection that when getting a few of these a year or so ago, that 1999 or 24.99 is in my head for some of these, and these tend to be the more illustrious presidents, not necessarily Polk, but when you're talking about a Bill Clinton bobblehead or a Barack Obama bobblehead, that it's not something that's as esoteric as getting a Rutherford B. Hayes bobblehead. And I remember the price for them being either 19, somebody can check on Amazon while we're on, but they were not at that level. But when you look for a Millard Fillmore, or you look for a
William Henry Harrison, because he was
Franklin
only
Purse,
in
which I used to
office
think it
for a
was
few
Pierce.
hours.
Yeah, but I've learned recently it's probably Franklin Purse. They tend to be $40. So I think it's actually inverse. I think the more rare the president, it actually increases the value, just simply because the supply isn't there. The makers don't think that many people, and they're right. The makers don't think that many people, are going to be itching for a Chester Arthur bobblehead.
Whoops. Okay. So, last bobblehead question before we go to the all-important bobblehead audience questions, and we're gonna start bringing people in. What do you think the bobbleheads talk about when you're not around?
Oh, I know what they talk about when I'm not around because I place microphones in my office and I record everything that happens. And honestly, they kind of talk about what an a-hole Jefferson was, right? Because when he used to be around all of them before they came to my house, I mean, all he did was talk about himself and how he wrote the Declaration of Independence, which of course isn't true. He contributed to it and he wrote a lot of it, but he was not the only one. But that's not how he wants to be remembered. And hundreds of years later, the guy's still talking about it. Ben, you're muted. Or you're mute. I don't know which.
I have a little delay, and I have been unable to unmute myself in a prompt fashion. Yeah, I think the Thomas Jefferson bobblehead would be insufferable. All right, we're going to do some bobblehead questions. Richard Wattenbarger, the floor is yours. You're muted. Hang on. Wait, start again.
I have two pressing bobblehead questions, presidential bobblehead questions. First of all, to have a complete set of all the presidential bobbleheads, you have to have Grover Cleveland 22 and Grover Cleveland 24. And how do you tell the two apart?
Yeah, my understanding of the presidential bobblehead series is that it is a series of presidents, not a series of presidencies. Therefore, there is one Grover Cleveland bobblehead. But if you know a little bit about Grover, if you know a little bit about Grover Cleveland, you do know that Grover Cleveland was a relatively large man, and his single bobblehead is probably the equivalent of two other bobbleheads.
Yeah. That makes sense. Second question. When did people start making these presidential bobbleheads, and why?
That's a good point. When I grew up many years ago now, I do not recall seeing bobbleheads. That is,
I think bobbleheads are kind of like a recent thing.
Yeah, the Funko Pop things are much newer. They're more of the last 15 years or so. But I'm guessing bobbleheads started to become a thing somewhere around 20 to 30 years ago. But that's loose. It may be that they've been manufactured for 100 years and they were simply not out in the open. But I doubt that. I think it is more of a modern phenomenon, if not because of the technology, just because of the consumer ability to buy things like presidential bobbleheads. So I don't know the answer to that question. I'm curious, and maybe I'll ping Jared Cohen, who probably would know the answer to that question.
All right, Lisa, aka @PetNoodle. The floor is yours.
Hello. Well, my question was, do you want to see my Chester A. Arthur non-bobblehead?
Whoa.
I know. I brought them at a yard sale in this bag. And it was all...
Who else is in the bag?
$15. I've given a bunch of them away, so I don't have a whole lot of them left. I give them to people as presents. Here's Tyler.
Yep.
And here's Johnson. Speaking of impeachment, we could have a collective impeachment.
Decapitate him.
Yes, snap him in half. Anyway, so there's a whole bunch of them. They've all got their own little outfits. Here's Van Buren.
We've got the rogues gallery of presidents there. Andrew Johnson is still one of the worst. Tyler.
No, here's Coolidge. Yeah. So anyway, that's my story.
Those are nice.
Harding. They're very old. I think that there were none more recent than, I don't even think FDR was in it. It was sort of like a 1930s thing or something.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, I could see
That's
that.
Sort of like antique presidential action figures.
Exactly. Exactly. So I give people presents, and I include a small.
Those are beautiful.
And I think that bobbleheads, certainly. I remember them being in people's cars, that like it would be on the back deck of the car and there'd be like a little, Rob just turned off the light. There'd be like a little bobbling dog or something.
Right.
I think that's a great idea. You know, the winged lady on the Rolls Royce should have a bobblehead. Zunyi, the floor is yours.
Hello. So when you collect all your presidential cabinet, when you moved on, to cabinet members.
Oh,
Do
wow.
you have a John Bolton bobblehead? Everyone's
boy,
favorite coupon.
if you think the presidents talk shit about Jefferson, you should hear what they say about John Bolton.
I bet.
Yeah. I can't imagine getting interested at that level. There are some historical cabinet officials that fascinate me and actually are much more interesting than presidents. I'm not sure that the level of collector interest in some of these 19th century cabinet officials is high enough to warrant it. My understanding is, however, you can get
a Bobble mustache.
Yeah. Oh, for Bolton himself?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want any part of John Bolton's body in my house, so I'm going to say no. But you know what? You do your own thing. I don't judge.
I'm not endorsing plot or coups.
I want to reiterate my invitation to come up to John Bolton to come on the Lawfare podcast and explain describe for us all the coups that he's been involved in plotting, because I think Jake Tapper really dropped the ball in that interview. And I think when a man tells you on national television that he's actually been involved in organizing coups and it takes a lot of work, the logical follow-up question is, say what? Which coups are we?
There's the follow-up in a live interview where a guest will throw you, a fastball, right? And it goes past you, you don't see it, I get that. Then there's the nomenclature of they toss you a softball, which is an easy one, to in this case, John Bolton took a gigantic ball, put it like on a tee ball, right? He put it on the tee and basically said, here, Jake, ask about this. And Jake did not swing. I don't understand that one.
Yeah, I'm bewildered by it. But Itamar, your bobblehead questions.
Mm-hmm.
In a non-bobblehead question.
Oh, good. Even better.
So my bobblehead question is, are your bobbleheads any good at predicting elections? Do sales correlate with presidential approval rating? Do they whisper in your ear?
Well, I hear them whispering in my ear. Whether they actually are whispering is a question for someone more qualified than myself. What I would like to do is ask the Royal Bobbles company there. You can see the label. I would actually be curious to see their sales data and to see what happens based on the presidential election cycle, based on the ups and downs of political parties, and of course also based on the publicity regarding past presidents. I suspect that Ulysses Grant, even if he had a bobblehead before Ron Chernow's biography came out, was probably not selling all that great. Maybe even before David McCullough wrote Truman. Now that was several years ago, and it might be before bobbleheads were more mass produced. But I have a feeling that it correlates a hell of a lot more with that than with the actual changes in American politics. Alexander Hamilton, not a president, but I would imagine that his bobblehead sales went up literally 100 times when the play came out, just because of the mass public interest in somebody that before was just reserved for interest from nerds like me.
So, Ben, we can't hear you.
Your next question.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, my next question. Yeah, so did you know that you have the best radio voice on the Lawfare podcast? And do you charge a premium?
Okay. Number one, I did not know that. But number two, because I do now know that, yes. Now, it raises a third issue, which is, how does one charge a premium for a free podcast? That's something we have to work out. But thank you, I think. I will figure out a way that I can make this for the benefit, not just of myself, but for all Lawfare listeners.
Ducks with Pants, the floor is yours. I want to say, before you go on, Ducks with Pants, I want to say that our bound and gagged observer in lieu of fun bamboo studio today raised her eyebrows with bewilderment when I said Ducks with Pants, the floor is yours.
Okay, well, I'm good on having that sort of impact. So I wanted to know um, what David's elevator pitch would be for the inevitable presidential bobblehead movie would be.
Ooh, wow. See, I thought you were going to go a different direction with that. I thought you were going to say, how could I work that into an episode of
Her eyebrows
Chatter?
when I
Um,
said ducks with pants.
Oh, I'm getting an echo from you, Ben, but I'm going to hold off for a second and let it clear. Okay. I would think that in the movie version of the Bobbleheads, you'd have to be really, really careful because it's easy to be as tasteless as I've been talking about some of them. On the other hand, it makes casting so much easier because you can be a caricature. Remember the movie Team America when they did the puppets? I mean, they did Kim Jong Un, they did Hans Bricks, they did all kinds of things there, and you can have fun with that. So I think you could actually have some fun with the graphic design elements of that. The plot would be tough though, because I don't know what you would have presidential bobbleheads do unless the Marvel Cinematic Universe continues to get more and more desperate for new plot elements. They could have a whole stage of their series where they work in bobblehead presidents to save the universe.
You think that's right? I think it would be like, so I think the elevator pitch for Bobblehead cinematic universe is that the Bobbleheads somehow embody the spirit of the president that they represent, and at some point they, basically come alive, and so you have 46 prior presidents who are all embodied with somewhat loose necks,
Yeah. So it's somewhat like the Night at the Museum movies with Ben
it's got a
Stiller.
little Night of the Museum vibe.
Robin Williams was,
except they're all in David Priess's basement.
right. I mean, Robin Williams was Teddy Roosevelt, and with the mustache and the makeup, they made him look remarkably like this bobblehead. So I feel like they've experimented with that. And if I'm right, that series made what in the industry is known as a shit ton of money. And I think then this might be it, right? Is the Night at the Museum taken to the next level is the Bobbleheads movie. You're onto something, Ben.
I think that may be right. I think it's like Night at the Bobblehead. Night in David Priess's study.
Don't say Night in David Priess's basement, because that's a horror movie. But I think, Lawfare has done web publishing. Lawfare has done podcasts. Lawfare has done long form writing. Lawfare has published its own book. I think Lawfare could jump into the presidential bobblehead movie industry.
I think this is an idea whose time has come and gone. But Pauline, the floor is yours.
Hi.
Hello.
Not muted. Hi, David.
Hi.
First, could you not have found an American company to make the bobbleheads? I mean, why is it called Royal?
I don't know if it is technically a company. Let's see. It is designed in the USA, manufactured in China. So that makes me think it is an American company that just subcontracts out the manufacturing to a Chinese company.
Royal is what you tried to get away from.
Yeah.
Yeah, we stuck you guys with it.
Maybe they're using the term royal in the different sense of grandeur, not of actual, monarchical royalty. But I don't know.
Maybe they mean Royal Dutch Shell.
And my real question was, can we see Ollie?
Ollie is, I don't know where he is now. I suspect he's in another part of the house because I can't hear him at all. He had a very long visit at the vet today. And he is not going to be making an in-person appearance because he is sleeping the sleep of a dog who has had a very long vet visit today. But Ben is kind enough to show some photos of the big guy right now.
Oh, look at that face.
Oh, he's wonderful. He's brought a lot of joy to us in the past few weeks. Yeah, so those of you who don't know the story, our beloved dog Finley passed away early this year, and it was rough. That was it was I think 13 or 14 very good years, and it left a real hole. And then my father passed away recently, and we just felt like this is just too much death to deal with in a few months. But Finley was a Yorkie. Finley was about 10 to 11 pounds. And when we decided to get a rescue dog, we went and visited the first rescue dog that needed immediate help. And we found Ollie, and he was almost an order of magnitude larger than Finley. But we just looked in his eyes, as you said, Pauline. We looked at his eyes, and there was no choice. This dog was coming home. And we went to the vet today and found out that the records that were transferred from the rescue people were clearly wrong, that based on his teeth, he is not at the end of his growth, and he was not born in October or November, but he was probably born in February or March, and he's still got a whole lot of growing to do. So we are going to have a dog that probably weighs as much as my wife at this point if he keeps growing.
All right. I do this extremely rarely because I do believe in active discrimination against the YouTube viewers, but I'm going to read a question from the YouTube chat because it is awesome. Larry Pfeiffer asks, do your bobbleheads get a wee little folder with presidential secrets in them each morning, or does it vary by president?
Oh, Larry, I love you. You know this. In fact, they do. That is my secret. As the PDB guy, how could I possibly have presidential bobbleheads and not give them daily briefings? The awkward part is it makes me late virtually every day to our Lawfare management meetings because I'm trying to brief all these presidents, and each one of them
they have
that
questions.
they're on top,
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
And then some of them have questions. Some of them, of course, like James Polk, have no idea what the hell I'm talking about because they didn't have anything like this. So they're generally quiet. But thank you, Larry. That's a good one.
All right. We have a question from Daniel, who has faded so dramatically into his native habitat that he's visible now. Okay, the floor is yours, Daniel.
Have the Bobbleheads started a band? And who's the lead singer?
The Bobbleheads they have not started a band, but let's put this together. I mean, I do know there have been people around the president who were skilled musicians before. Josh Bolton in the George W. Bush administration was actually an excellent bass player, and right now, Tony Blinken is a good musician. But other than Bill Clinton half playing the saxophone, I'm not sure of any presidents who have been skilled enough that they could play in a band with others. But I don't know. I could kind of see Abe Lincoln on the bass. You know, he's a tall guy. He's got the long reach. He could probably do that. Bill Clinton, good with his hands, probably a good drummer as well as saxophone.
Jefferson was an excellent violinist.
Was he?
Although,
really?
again, he was really, yes.
At least he claims so.
No. He was. He used to impose his violin playing on guests at Monticello, and was apparently insufferable about it, but was extremely good.
I think Teddy Roosevelt would grab the mic. Clearly, he would want to be the front man. I don't know. I could kind of see. I know Barack Obama famously, went on Jimmy Fallon and did some smooth tones with his voice. But I could see.
Yeah, and he sang Obama. a mean, amazing grace at the time of the Newtown shootings.
So maybe backup singer. Maybe when Teddy Roosevelt finally sleeps after 72 hours staying awake,
or when he finally succumbs to the gunshot wound.
Maybe Barack can take over, but maybe he could lay down some smooth backing chords on keyboards. So yeah, there's a real possibility here. I am not going to reconstruct my bobbleheads in order to put instruments in their hands, but that's a whole new series. If you want to start a company that's not royal baubles, but musical baubles, I think there's some money to be made.
I just want to point out, people, that we have now gone 40 minutes without turning to a single serious subject. We've kept this bit going for 40 minutes now. And so I declare this part of the show at an end. I'm, impressed that we still have,
And some damn good questions along the way.
Like,
let's be honest.
y'all
It was
played
a
along
question
with
that
it.
kept
It was it was funny along the way. I'm really touched. And is that Polk? Who was that?
That's Polk.
That
The
was
white
Polk,
hairs
yeah.
are showing up at the end. Yeah.
John Hawkinson asks, can we have a brief discussion of Mondays in person? Well, sure. There's going to be an in-person cheese night in New York on Monday. That's about as much as I know. If Ev is here and wants to come on and give more information, she has been organizing this. But you guys know everything that I know. I just know that I'm supposed to be in New York at some point on Monday, and we're going to have cheese. So, David, what are we talking about other than presidential bobbleheads?
Okay, I'll tell you something else that's been on my mind.
Well, what's on your mind?
It has nothing to do with our work together, kind of like presidential bobbleheads. Since I was a kid, I had a fascination with astronomy. And I think many kids do, but I was seriously considering up until I was a teenager of going into astronomy. And had I been born later in today's era, I actually might have done it, because you can do things like, extrasolar biology and planetary, imagining extraterrestrials in other solar systems.
Although Shane does that pretty well without.
He doesn't have a degree, but he does.
No, but he,
really
he
damn
does.
well.
He does.
Right.
Whoa! Misha just fell off my deck.
Oh, no.
And is now very upset.
But okay, I hope.
Oh, he's fine.
Okay.
He didn't have far to fall.
So I did not have the opportunity to pursue something like that, because what I discovered when I took astronomy in college, because my university had a small observatory, I took astronomy thinking I get to spend all my time looking through the telescope at nebula, at planets and moons of planets and all the stuff.
They didn't tell you about the math.
Holy I mean, it was insane. It was a math class with, I think, 2 viewings through the telescope and pretending you were talking about bodies in space, but you might as well have been doing physics equations with nothing else going on. And it completely turned me off. Thankfully, I was good at math. I could handle it, but I didn't enjoy it. It's not something that gave me any pleasure to do, and it turned me off of astronomy for many years. And then nobody could not be excited about the images from the James Webb Space Telescope this last week. They are phenomenal. They are going to expand our understanding once we actually analyze a lot of the data we're getting, not just the flashy images. But I think I watched one of the NASA rollouts, and it was remarkable to me how both well choreographed the presentation was supposed to be, because they had people lined up in different places around the world, and they would explain things and they would have images, and just how bad the transitions were, that when they were handing off to somebody, the host would unfortunately wait about 1 second before she decided to say on her hot mic that there was a problem and something's going wrong, and you could hear it all in the background. And it made it seem a little bit more amateur, which was almost charming in a way. But the part that got me was these images by themselves mean nothing to the average person. Even me, I said, wow, nice image, very colorful, lots of detail, great. But what I didn't have for each one was the side-by-side, is showing this is what the famed Hubble Space Telescope could show us, which was remarkable in its own way. But this is what we're seeing from this when we have something like 5% of the exposure time. We're getting so much more detail. We're looking so much farther back in time, much more efficiently. And I think that part could have been sold better, because
NASA needs a lawfare.
It's the advance that the image demonstrates that's the real issue.
See, the problem is that NASA doesn't have lawfare. There's no lawfare for space.
So we should do Starfare as our next spin-off?
Yes, Starfare.
Starfare. That sounded like Slawfare. I'm like, oh no, it's a bad picnic blog. Oh.
Yeah, well, Scott Anderson, our esteemed senior editor, who is a a passionate vegetarian wants to turn Lawfare into a raw foods vegetarian site and call it Rawfare. That's been his long-standing, when Scott plots a coup, that's what he thinks about.
I think you've heard me say before, Ben, that in your construction work, when you're making the new custom table for the Lawfare conference space, that we should have filmed that and used that as a live video event for Lawfare and just called it Sawfare as you're cutting.
Yeah, there's also, the Crab Shack Clawfare, and the where all the cows go to eat is Strawfare.
Well, we spend enough time talking about Misha and Gergs and Ollie that Pawfare is an easy one.
Yeah, exactly. So here's a question about the new Lawfare. We saw today, for the first time, the mock-ups of the new Lawfare website, should we tease the Greek chorus a little bit? What did you think of them?
I was blown away just because Lawfare is a very efficient website for communicating information, but it is not the prettiest website. And I'm not insulting anybody who worked on it, named Ben or anyone else at the time that this iteration was developed. But it is a very workmanlike website. It is not designed to appeal visually. And the folks that we are working with are very good at that. And the balance we're trying to strike is to both keep all the functionality and improve the functionality and the ordering of the site while having the visual appeal taken up to a new level.
And we actually connected the top of the site to the rest of the site with a spring so that the banner kind of goes like this.
Yeah, just goes back and forth. It's lovely. But yeah, it's going to take some time and we're not there yet. But what is this, July? I'd say in about 4 months, you all will see a newly designed Lawfare site, which is a big deal for us because even though we do podcasts and we have a whole lot of downloads and we do a lot of video now and we publish book, the website is still the heart of the operation. And we want to make sure that we very carefully do not diminish the benefits that we have on the site, but we really want to take it up a notch. And what I saw today told me that we are taking it up a notch, and I really hope that we fulfill the promise that I saw today. What did you think, Ben? Did you have the same impression?
So I want to respond to that in the context of responding to Richard Wattenbarger's comment in the Greek chorus that Lawfare does have an appropriately professional-looking site, which I agree with. I think the original conception of the site when we first built version 1.0 was that it would be completely tombstone. There were no pictures, there were no, it was basically, it was all black and white. And then the second version of the site, which is the one that we're using now, we added the ability to have images, the ability to put images on the front page, to move things around a little bit, to highlight certain things. And it is very functional. It works very well. And it also needs to be completely rewritten for reasons that have nothing to do with the current site. It has to do with the fact that it was written in Drupal 7, and Drupal 7 will no longer be supported as of November of this year. So there are no circumstances in which we don't have to rewrite it. Since we built the last site, we have had an explosion on the podcast side of the operation. The podcast now, or the collection of podcasts now, outpaces in traffic the website by about 2 to 1. Yeah. And so you want a website that's able to support the podcast operation, as well as, since the podcast operation is funding the website. And you also want the ability to, so I'm going to go ahead and announce this right now. So we have a very cool project that we are going to be starting in September, involving in Lieu of Fun co-host Scott Shapiro, who is going to be giving a series of 13 lectures on hacking and how to do it on Lawfare. And so you need
not
to
how
do
to
the,
hack Lawfare. He's going to be
no,
doing on Lawfare.
On Lawfare,
it's on hacking.
yes.
Right.
So you need a website that can fully support integration with things like Crowdcast, with things like Zoom for Lawfare Live. Right now, we kind of do those sort of off Lawfare. So we want to build that stuff into the site. We've also been, as a lot of you know, doing a lot of live tapings of the Lawfare podcast on Twitter Spaces. You know, it's kind of odd for that not to appear on Lawfare while we're doing it so that people can, you know, jump in. And so we're trying to, you know, build a site that is both, you know, physically actually capable of integrating all of this stuff that we're doing, but also a little bit more visually exciting without losing the very serious professional quality of the look that is characteristic of the site. So that's the linkage, I think, between the point that Richard is making, with which I agree. I actually love our current site. It just doesn't support all the activity that we're doing anymore. But secondly, I agree with David that the material that we saw today was both exceptionally attractive and really, really thoughtful in its organization and in, most importantly, from my point of view, in our ability to manipulate it. So that, for example, the front page might look completely different when the 1-6 committee is doing a hearing. Maybe what you want is the hearing on the front page, you know, dominating the front page. When you're done with that, you want the commentary to dominate. We have, I'm excited about it. I was, as David can tell you, very skeptical of leaving our current management of our website. And I am really excited about the direction this has gone. Hello, Kate Klonick.
I'm so sorry that I'm late. And I was like, GDF, yeah, of course I can do it. I'll maybe be like 10 minutes late, but that should be fine. Now I'm like 15, I'm like 10 minutes left.
It's okay. We spent 45 minutes talking about presidential bobblehead dolls, and I just want to point out that in our poll,
disturbing.
73% of the audience says we should do more shows on bobbleheads. Look at the poll.
I want to see the Abe Lincoln bobblehead.
Look at the poll. Don't you think it has an
eyebrows?
Doesn't it have a Osama bin Laden vibe?
I think it's the eyebrows.
See, Kate agrees with me.
It does. It does. It truly does. It's like a little bit, yeah.
It's much more when you turn it to the side. If it's a little bit, the full frontal Abe is pretty Abe, but you tilt him 30 degrees and he starts looking a little Osama-y.
It is a well-known problem with Lincoln scholarship, right? Only 16,000 books written about him, that they have failed to explore the Yemeni roots of the Lincoln family and the connection to the bin Ladens.
That's right.
It's a big gap in the
What
literature.
if there actually was? What do you think would happen? Like, what if
What is it with you
we
two?
did like 23andMe on Abraham Lincoln's family, and it comes back, and like they are like, oh my God,
Yeah.
Osama bin Laden. And do you think, what would the originalists do with that information?
Okay, so here, you want to hear a 23andMe originalism thing?
Yeah.
A member of my family did 23andMe. Not me. Not somebody within, but somebody who.
And one of you is the Golden State Killer?
No, shares a shitload of DNA with me. What percent, and we can assume that this number is going to be the same. What percentage of me do you think is Ashkenazic Jewish?
42.
99. What is it?
It's 100.
Really?
It's the least interesting possible answer.
I was going to go the other direction.
Without going over.
I thought you were throwing us for a curve.
Without going
It's
over.
like, I expected it to be like to have some like, we're like we have some Cossack in our background because of the, pogroms or something. Nope, we're 100% Ashkenazic Jewish.
Wow.
That's kind of amazing.
How about that?
There you go.
Okay.
That is very high. Anne Kornhauser wins The Price is Right.
Yeah, she takes one to know one. All right. We have a question.
Like, also, we talked about the one eye of the dog shirt that is just hanging out.
We've got two.
Another one.
It's the nippliest of dog shirts.
But it was just like it was very like. So just pointing that out. I got to hang out with Alan Roach.
Nobody talked about my shirt. Look, I wore a special shirt for y'all.
Yeah, you wore a sangria shirt.
No. Read it carefully.
I read it carefully. I misread it intentionally. All right, Dr. Doom has an important question. Are bobbleheads serialized and have they been NFTs? And when will Lawfare open its own bobblehead store?
Oh, wow. I mean, we've had some issues with merch lately, and I'm not sure I want to enter the bobblehead shipping business because about 1 out of 20, despite the plastic wrapping around the springs and all of the packaging, about 1 out of every 20 pops in with a problem somewhere. So I'm going to take that one off the table. The NFTs, are we still doing that? I thought we were moving on from NFTs already.
Hope so.
I don't know. Did the crypto market crashing take out NFTs with
it? That's what I was hoping.
I was hoping. I don't know if that's actually true.
Yeah.
But.
All right, Alaric, you get the last question today.
A lot of pressure.
Except he's frozen.
Oh no.
All right, I'm going to read Alaric's question because Alaric is frozen, and I think he may have been busy sacking Rome. Will there be a First Lady? Well, that's what Alaric's famous for. First Lady series of bobbleheads.
There is I don't know if it's the full series, and of course that would not be full in some ways because James Buchanan had no First Lady as such, except for someone who played the role when social events came up, but he was unmarried. But there are many First Lady bobbleheads, maybe even most of them. I have not collected those yet, but I think if my bobbleheads get a little lonely, then they'll let me know and I'll acquire for them some wifery.
All right. We are going to leave it there.
Indian in the cupboard, which probably is like a not safe or not like a not pot. I'm not allowed to say it because it has.
Yeah, you're going to get canceled, Kate.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
But the conceit of Native Americans in the cupboard is essentially that the little boy has this magical cupboard that like he can put his like toy soldiers in or like whatever in this thing, and then they become alive. And they're tiny and miniature, and he like makes friends with them. And like, anyways, it's kind of it's a children's book, obviously. If that wasn't obvious, I hope that's obvious now. And like, but what if we did this with bobbleheads?
Yeah, I think that's going to happen. And also, I think we all have to start going like this because, we're not allowed to have fun anymore, but at least we can act like bobbleheads. So we're going to be back on Friday. Kate, who's going to be our guest? This is getting dizzying.
Ow.
Yeah, we have AL Press on Friday, and or Kate Conger. I
thought we had Kate Conger.
I know. Well, I messed up. So probably someone is going to not come, and I'll probably ask. I'll figure it out later. Anyways, it'll be great. And David, hi.
And that'll be 48 hours from now, 47 hours from now, exactly. David Priess, you're a great American. It's great to see you. You committed to the bit in a way that would do Scott Shapiro proud. We did a whole hour of, bobbleheading. And until the next time, Kate?
We're not allowed to have fun anymore, but we can give ourselves nosebleeds doing this. We're like...
Oh, and Rick Grinnell, you know, there's nothing you can say about my propensity to be silly or that I will not outdo on live television.
Yeah,
Just saying.